This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So CSRs. Working with CSRs is something that I have learned by doing buttons, pushing things. An accountant that told me to do something for him, and I'm like, can I do that? And he did it, and it worked. We've talked about this in the past, about manipulating the CSRs for people that need it, not manipulating it for everybody, because if it gets manipulated all the time, that will cause problems in the future. This is just something to be aware of. You're the expert, the details that the clients are coming to you for the details. These are the things they really need you to know. This will also set you apart from other agents, and it will make you be the one that everybody trusts. So when they see all those spam things, when they see those ads, they're going to go, let me talk to my agent. Even if they forget what you did, they remember you did something for them. So I'm going to show you this. And Mary, I'll walk through, I'm going to walk all the way through what CSR means, where it came from, kind of beginning. And as I mentioned before, my camera all disappeared. This is one of my classes in my ACA Academy. So if you've had that and you've done it, this will look familiar. This will be a great refresher. If you see it and you go, oh, that's right, I had a question, great time to ask. Again, my staff, they're great. They will be answering those questions in the chat because I won't see them once the PowerPoint. I can't really see those, but they'll bring up anything that needs to be done. And it's understanding the CSRs is impacting clients where it needs to. Their wallet, their bank account, I can't go to the doctor because I can't afford to go. I have insurance, but I can't afford to go. And this will, so they can go. A couple, not really housekeeping, but I'm going to mention it again. So the North American Insurance Aid Conference is happening in July in Texas, but it's a good hotel. Their air conditioning works great. If you have never been, or if you've been to those giant ones and you're like, I'd really like to have a small, intimate one, this is that one. It's a great opportunity. It is right now $199 for the VIP, which gives you access to VIP dinners, which are free, and they're always at very nice places. A tour of the Star, which is where the Cowboys training facility, and a couple really nice meet and greets. That's $199. If you're like, nah, that's not really one, I just want the meeting, that's only $99. It's going up at the end of this month. But if you do it now, between now and end of March, if you go make your, buy your ticket, send me that you did it. Somebody sent me a screenshot, which would work great. They will reimburse you 50%. As of April 1st, it's going up. I've already seen the preliminary agenda, and I'm kind of excited. The theme is probably, don't quote me yet, but it's going to be more on automation and AI, how to make you more efficient, how to make this work behind the scenes. So it should be the main theme that's happening, but I think we'll have the full theme, everything by next week. So if you have not gone to look at what that class is, it's at na-insurance.com. That's North American Insurance Company. If you open up their main page, all the way on the right, it says conference. And then just click that button, that'll walk you through. It's a really good conference. Small, intimate. Josh has been there. John, my other agent, he was there last year. Sam gets to come this year. You get to sit around tables and talk and get to know each other. In fact, I got to meet some of you there last year. It was great. And I think the feedback for the most part was really good. All right, on to reminding you what's coming up. Next week, we're going to talk about interpreting those summary of benefits. And if I have time, I also kind of want to go through explanation of benefits, because those are the two things that your clients don't necessarily understand. And if they bring it to you and you don't understand, this is a good thing to know so that you can help your client. March 28th, it's still, I'm hoping we're going to talk about ICRA and QSERA. That's a hot topic. How does that work? What do I do when I'm the agent? How do I set this up? Do I have to use a third party? I'm talking to a guy today, one of the experts in that field. Next, in April, I've already got some agendas. April 4th is group insurance. I know a lot of you have been asking about group. I got an expert. He's kind of my group mentor who's coming. He's a special speaker. April 11th, got another special speaker helping your clients with those high medical costs. I don't remember who it was, but somebody asked if you, let's say you put somebody in at 60,000, and so they've got the full max out of pocket. And then at tax time, they really only made 13. Maybe they were self-employed and they didn't know how that worked, but they had high medical costs. Can we put them back into that low costing, that CSR? No, you can't. You can't put them backwards. They may get the tax credit back. I mean, they'll get that what they overpaid on premium, but not their medical expense. And Aaron had started doing some research. He's got some really cool background on how you can help find resources to help your clients. And I know most of you, as I've said, we're heart-centered agents. And if I can help somebody not have to pay $9,000 over the next 6 years of payments, with quick resources. And then April 18th, we'll be working with the automations and AI, kind of what you need to know, what I've learned from our system and some other things that have come up. So that's kind of a peek at April. And then, yes, Rosalind just emailed me, show me that you sent it, that like, hey, I did it. It has to have been purchased basically since last week to this week, for the most part, or through March. So you have until the end of March. And I'll get you your 50% back. They're clarifying to me exactly how that's going to happen, your 50%. I don't know if it's instant or whatever, but you will get basically a ticket. So you can buy the VIP ticket at $199 and get it the price of a regular ticket and get all the extra VIPs, which starts Sunday night. So the conference starts Monday, but if you're there Sunday night, there's a really nice dinner. They always take us to really nice places, good food. All right. We're going to jump into this now. I'm hoping this will work. Once I share, I think I got it set to the right thing. Maybe. All right, so we're going to do Zoom. Share. You will have to tell me if it's not sharing to the right thing in a moment, but. All right, do you see a full screen of the PowerPoint? Okay, so this is really about fully understanding the CSRs. Not kind of, or knowing it means cost sharing reductions and what does that matter, and kind of just knowing the black and white. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's really big benefits for lower income. That's the reason it's cost sharing reductions. So lower income gets better benefits. Well, the marketplace benefits right now, let me let a couple people in. We all know about the tax credit. So the government said, hey, insurance companies, if you're going to do this, you're going to be on the marketplace and you're going to basically get guaranteed money for the premiums, you have to do something else. You have to reduce the cost of the deductibles, max out of pockets, and copays for people who have lower income. So while somebody may make $15,000 and they can get a plan for nothing, but their max out of pocket's $9,000, it's like not even having insurance. So the cost sharing reductions is that second bonus benefit. It's only available in the silver plans, and it's for anybody between 100 and 250% above the federal poverty level. I always think it's interesting, and it's usually somebody who actually isn't low income. It's just low reported income. So imagine somebody who's retired and they make 500,000. I mean, they make really good money, but they don't really, on paper, on the IRS paperwork, they're living off their Social Security, but they got a huge money in their account. They have a big Roth. And I will show them that silver plan that's everything's better. And they go, ooh, what's the gold look like? Well, the gold is worse. Silver's the cost sharing reductions. The second bonus is only in the silver plans, not in the bronze plans, not in the gold plans. It reduces that out of pocket. All right. So the next one, there we go. So what is a CSR? I know Mary asked that. Clients, we use those, acronyms all the time, which everybody in their field is guilty of that. So this discount is what lowers the amount the client pays for deductibles, co-payments, and co-insurance in the health insurance marketplace, and it's cost sharing reductions, often called extra savings. The CSR shows up at the quoting stage, so you see it instantly. On Health Sherpa, it'll make it really obvious, right? It's got a little thing that says there's cost savings. On healthcare.gov, it'll show that. They can use a premium tax credit for the plan in any of those metal categories, but if they qualify for that extra savings, they'll get those only if they pick the silver plan. If they're a member of the federally recognized tribe or Alaska Native, part of the, whether they're Native or they live up in Alaska and they get that extra money, sometimes, depending on that, they get even more. So Native Americans, those are part of the federally recognized tribe. They get the cost sharing reductions in the bronze plan. So there's no reason to ever sell a Native American a silver or a gold plan. We can talk about that on a different one, but if their income is below 300, I think it's 350% of federal poverty level, you're going to just stick them in the bronze plan because everything's free. There are 3 levels of CSRs. Now, people often want to know what the income bracket is. Like, oh, what's the, if I make, how much can I make before my price changes? Well, for the most part, if you make $10, $10 more, it's going to go up. If you make $100, it's going to go up. This is the only one that there is brackets. So these CSRs are based on income. So who gets these extra savings? Anyone who falls between 100 and 250% above the federal poverty level. Here is, print this. Oh yeah, print this, hang it on your wall, have it within eyesight. You need to quickly know that number. Mine is right there. I just look, it's right there. Josh has got it next to him. Sam's, we just have it right there. And the reason we have it right there looks like this. When somebody comes in and tells you their income is 22,000, you need to look at that federal chart and go, 22, well, that's only $130 above the 150%. Why does that matter? I will show you. This is what it looks like on healthcare.gov. Just so you know, it'll say silver plans. On Health Sherpa, they make it really obvious. All right, so what does this look like? I want you to see the differences in those CSRs and how it can affect your clients. And this will make you that expert. This is something they're not going to know. So income at 250% versus 250.1. It's a cliff. If you make 250, if you make one bit more, you don't. System is not letting me, I don't even know where it is now. My mouse just totally disappeared because I let somebody in. I might have to do this. Oh, it's completely frozen. See how that works? Well, try that again. There we go. Nothing like computer glitches today. All right, here we go. All right, so this is somebody, again, I'm using my area. You can do this exact same thing at you. You've got that cliff, that thing that's showing the federal chart. These might be 2023's rates, but income at $3,975 for a single 58-year-old. All I did was raise it by $1. So that $1 is what moves it out of the CSR. So on Health Sherpa, that's what it looks like. If you look on the top right, it says cost sharing reduction CSR. And the savings on the bottom one, exactly the same amount, but there is no cost sharing reduction. This is why I want you to have that chart, so you can instantly kind of check. So income at 250% and 250.1. This is the difference in what that plan looks like. The cost is exactly the same, but look at the deductible difference. Look at the max out of pocket. So this is the top tier CSR. This is the people that are at the little bit higher level of getting a cost sharing reductions. If you live in an area that does not have $0 deductible plans, between these two, isn't it clear which one is better? They're paying the same amount. The tax credit's exactly the same. I'd rather adjust their income down by $1 and have them save almost $2,000 in that max out of pocket. Now, the next level, so it's between 200 and 250%. That's CSR level number 1. The next one is between, so now somebody's at 200 versus 201. So that 201, they still get a tax credit. They're still in that cost sharing reduction. Lower their income by $1. They're getting the exact same tax credit. And here's the plan differences. The cost is exactly the same, but now instead of them having a $3,450 deductible, they have a $600. Their max out of pocket just went down from $7,250 to $3,000. And the rate's the same. So if somebody comes in and tells you that their income is just above that 200%, I mean, think about this. This client, if you look back at what their income was, their difference in income is $1. They only make $1 more, but now they're getting charged almost $3,000 more for, well, over $3,000 more for their max out of pocket. You're protecting your clients by knowing where that cliff is. All right. Next level. So, well, here's a real life scenario. My client walks in, says their income is at 200.1 plus. It's not much, 28,000. But I put them down at 27,180. And I asked, there's an $820 difference in income. But the tax, I mean, $800, that's all the difference between what they think they're going to make. Now remember, we're estimating, and what they really make is $800. But $820 difference in income, but $4,240 in out of pocket. What's the price difference? $50 versus $44. So you can adjust this one of two ways. Option 1, you calculate the difference. You go, all right, they're guessing that you probably should pay around $51.64. But if I lower your income so that you get that better plan, you might, the cost is $44.64. A difference of $7 times 12. At tax time, you'll probably owe $84 to the IRS. Will this work for you? I think this is Joshua's way of doing it, right? Josh, you show them what they might have to potentially owe back. Yep. Have you ever had anybody say no? No. He's never had somebody go, nah, I don't want to pay them $84. I'd rather pay almost $5,000 more in that max out of pocket. And again, this is an estimate. They don't really know. None of us know. Heck, that dollar, 800 and, his difference in $800, that could just be a week of sickness and he doesn't even make that. Option 2, this is the way I do it to adjust the tax credit, is I say, can you afford $51.64? Sure. So then instead of taking all of the tax credit of $713, I say, can you afford that $51? And then I adjust the tax credit. I take less than $713. Does that kind of make sense? Mary's like, nope. This is why you probably need to take that class, because you can do it over and over again. The income adjustment happens when right before you pick the plan, they're like, this is what it is. We're offering you $713, and you can say, I only want to take $700. And then you're not using all of it. The difference, the lowest CSR is between 100 and 150. So the difference again between somebody making $150,000, 150% above poverty level, and somebody making 150.1% federal poverty level. $1 difference between the two. Now they both get CSRs, they both get the exact same tax credit. This is what their plans look like. They both cost nothing. The biggest difference isn't the max out of pocket on this, it's the deductible and those doctor visits. Now, if somebody's right on that edge, the idea of going to a specialist for $55 6 times in a year can seem like too much money. But if I can get them to go to a specialist for $20, they'll go. And the cost is the same. It costs them nothing in this particular situation. Usually the difference in cost is pretty minimal. But you're saving them money when they go to the doctor. And the whole point of having insurance is so that you can go when you need to go. Not that you go when you're having a heart attack. We want you to go before you have that heart attack. If somebody came in, which this is another one, this is a lower, so we have a $0 one for 0 deductibles, but then that's the one that everybody had, and then they have a second one that cost $8.29, and it's out of pockets $1,700. No charge for doctors, no charge for generics, $10 for a specialist. Most of them are going to take that $8.29. I do show them this. I never make the decision for them because there are some that are like, nah, I'm going to do 0. Okay. I never go to the doctor. I don't think I'm going to go to the doctor now. All right, they'll take 0. I would say most of them, 75 to 90%, are going to take the $8.29 one. They're going to take that less expensive, but you're giving them the option. And all I did was change their income by $1 in this particular situation. But if you don't know where those cliffs are, those brackets, that's why I have it sitting right there. Somebody walks in and you do it enough, if you have enough coming through, you can just hear somebody say, I make $22,000. And you're like, wait, 21,870 is the 150 percentile. I'm just gonna put you down between 100 and 150. The other one is somebody says 38 and I'm like 38. Oh wait, 36. If I put 36, I'll get you down a little bit lower. I explain to them what I'm doing. I put notes in the system so that my staff knows what I'm doing. And then I also understand what I did during renewals. So those are the options. They pay $99.48 for the year, and they get to save $1,300 at the max out of pocket. Now, I do know this has come up. You have a question. You're like, wait a minute. What if my client goes over? They told me 23,000 and I put them at 21. Are they going to have to pay back those CSRs? No. If your client goes over the income limit listed on the application, they only have to pay back the IRS if the IRS paid more than they should have. They do not pay back the CSR benefits. Now I'm going to tell you how I found this out. I had an accountant tell me to put his income at the lowest level, enough that he could qualify for basically insurance, right at the 100%. And I'm like, I think you make more than that. And he said, probably, but I don't know. But I have a lot of doctor bills. I have a lot of doctor things coming up. And if I have to pay back even all of this tax credit, it will save me from having to pay back the huge out of pocket. And I honestly don't know what I'm going to make. I'm self-employed. If some of this sickness ends up happening where I end up not being able to work for 3 months, I don't know what I'm going to make, but I do know I'm going to the doctor a lot. And I went, okay, you're telling me what you want to do. And he did it. And I was like, wow, all right, that worked. And because he was an accountant, I could say, so did you have to pay it back? And now this was back in 2016, I believe. And so I have used this for people since then. I know it's been asked, What is stopping this from everybody doing this? They walk in, they tell you you make $100,000 and we're like, hey, I'm just going to put you at 20 and get you this best plan. What's stopping that is you. That is not who I'm trying to help. If we end up abusing this for somebody who makes $100,000, then they might start having more things in there that are going to cause problems. Maybe then the health insurance companies are saying, hey, we want to see some tax documents. Many of you may not know this because you're relatively new to the ACA, but when the Affordable Care Act was passed, part of the CSR benefit and the fact that there's no income or cliff, where the insurance would pay $1 million and then that was it, they were out, they're like $1 million in your lifetime. The Affordable Care Act got rid of that, so there's no, sorry, the insurance will no longer cover you because you cost too much. Part of the Affordable Care Act kind of backing an insurance for the insurance companies that they wouldn't go broke was that they would help reimburse high claims. That's part of also the CSR benefits. When Trump was in office, I think it was his first year, he actually eliminated that back insurance. So all the insurance carriers had to search, find, resource, figure out how to make sure they would not go under, even though they can't pull the plug on someone who costs too much money. That was a long time ago, and they have all figured it out. So I honestly don't know, unless overwhelming majority of people abuse this, that will be an issue. I'm using this for people who have low income, not the rich person who's living off the Roth and, you know, has low income and paperwork. I'm doing this for the self-employed person whose husband is sick and going through an unbelievable chemo, and she works part-time and they barely are above the federal poverty level anyways. But she was like, oh, I'll probably make, and she was thinking in the 200. And I went, I think you're probably not. And I was right, because he was very sick. So that's who this is for. All right. So this is why I talk about the CSRs and how important this is pay attention to your client's income. Scenario 1, the income was first reported at 19,100. They are in that lowest CSR. They're below between 100 and 150 percentile. Mid-year, they call you to tell you they just got a raise at their new job, and now they plan on making $24,000. What do? I put this in Facebook. We kind of talked about this. I think it was my second class I taught this year, adjusting income in the middle of the year. Let's think about that. Scenario 2, self-employed person says, I don't know what I'm going to make. It could be between 20,000 and 45. This happens to me all the time with farmers. I live in the dairy state, lots of cheese. They don't know what milk is from day to day. So I ask them, what's your worst year, best year? What do you think you should do? Now, again, this is my answer. You might have a slightly different version, but this is how I approach scenario 1. So scenario 1, I run a quote at the new amount. So they just said, I got a raise and I'm going to make 20,000 or 24. Sometimes they got a raise for 24,000 for the whole year, but their raise was in the middle of the year, you know? So I just run a quote at the new income. So then I write down that tax credit, you know, run the quote, put in their statistics, their stats on, not statistics, their stats on age and demographic stuff. Put in the new income at 24,000 and write down that amount. Then you go into update the application, update the income by $1, as long as your dollar doesn't kick them out. And then at the end of the application, state client is losing coverage at the end of the month. If you've been watching me long enough, you know that that's kind of just standard for me at this point. I always say, so if I'm doing it this month in March, if I'm doing this, I would say they're losing coverage March 31st, 2024 at the end of the application. This just lets you adjust it for the next month, doesn't cause issues. No, they're not going to ask for proof of your coverage ending. This is just to make the system not do your changes either in the front or behind. I just ran into a situation where I didn't do this, and it actually backdated what somebody's tax credit was all the way to January. So, and he was not prepared to have not only his new income, the new rate come out, all this backdate for his previous 2 months. So this is by saying the coverage is ending at the end of the month you're working on, all it does is move everything forward to the next month. Then you adjust the amount of the tax credit being taken to match the quote. That's why I said write it down. This will make sure the client is paying the correct amount, but protects them from moving them into a new CSR. Because if I put their income at 24,000, it moves them out of that, $0 deductible 1,700 into 3,000. They haven't made that income yet. So I keep them in the same plan, but make sure they're paying the right. So it looks like this. When you're doing it at the plan summary, the very end, it says, here's your insurance company. Here's what it's going to cost. This button that says I want to apply all of my savings is automatically checked. It's already there. It's always automatically checked. You unclick it and then you type in the amount you want. So whatever your quote said in this situation with somebody getting $1 because he wasn't sure, he thought he was going to end up going over all the way. All right. But that's where you adjust it. You don't move them from one CSR into another one, which has happened. Somebody had 1,700, told us they were getting a raise, got moved into the $3,000 max out of pocket, broke her arm, went to the ER, had to have all this stuff, lost her job because she couldn't work and was stuck with a $3,000 bill. And it was a lot of money. She's still paying it. If I had just kept her where she was, she wouldn't have had 3,000. I mean, 17 would still been high, right? But much more manageable, not 3,000. And then I go back and we lowered her income. It does not backdate the CSR. It doesn't go, oh, well now, you said 24, now it's back down to 19. There's that weird month or two that they had 3,000 out of pocket. It doesn't backdate.
Hey, Chris Adolph has a good question.
Sure. Well, you should read it for me because I can't even, I'd have to get off the screens.
What about recorded phone calls? If we're lowering it from like 22 down to 21,870 on a recorded phone call, could this come back to hurt the agent for technically not placing the amount the client stated?
This is when I use the phrases, this is an estimate, right?
This is our best guess.
I mean, if they're telling you in December what they made for the whole year, yeah, okay. But when you're enrolling them in the beginning of the year, mid-year, you don't really know. That's why I'm not going to take somebody who makes 60,000 and they're enrolling in October. Oh, I'm going to put you down at 20. I might the next year because they're like, oh, I'm going to live off Social Security. So I'm really excited to show them what next year is going to look like. This is the best guess. This is, you're not guaranteeing anything. That's why we're like, well, if we put you at 21, you would have to pay the IRS back. Okay. I mean, you're being honest. There's not much in there. The thing that I have always said is remember why the Affordable Care Act was passed. To make insurance affordable for people to use. If you are showing that you're making insurance affordable for people to use, they're not really going to argue with you on that. That is what CMS is saying. In fact, Erin is going to come when she comes and talks about how to save your people money. She's going to talk about that. There's a clause in she just popped it off the top of her head, and I should probably memorize it, with the Affordable Care Act. They want you to get people enrolled and they want it to be affordable. It goes right back to anybody who makes less than $100,000 and you're like, sorry, can't enroll you. Yes, you can. If they tell you they make 13,000, you go, is it possible that you could make 15? Sure. All right. I'm putting you in at 15. If you make 13, do you have to pay any money back? No, you do not. That is in the Affordable Care Act. They want everybody to have this. They just thought every state was going to expand. Well, we all know that didn't happen. The reason I would do what I just said about that person, client was making 103% above the federal poverty level. Max out of pocket was 15. She got that raise. income was changed and it was increased over almost 3,000. Hurt less than a month, had to have surgery, couldn't work, lost her job. She never actually made that money, and she's still on that current payment plan. You need to protect your clients. Now, in this same situation, I keep her in the same plan. I do warn her that next year that plan's probably going to change. But by then she's worked the whole year, or she's, 6 months or whatever it is, and now they have the money. They've actually been working that and they're prepared. So scenario number 2, my self-employed client, like I said, happens with me and farmers. They don't know what they're going to make. 20,000, 45. What's your best guess? Best year, 45. I hope I don't go as low as 20. I've heard that. And then sometimes they only make 14,000. So same thing. I run a quote at 45. Best year, you're going to make 45,000. I write down the appropriate tax credit amount for that amount. So again, my example is 45,000 equals $552 of tax credit. Then on the application, I put them at the lowest amount. Estimated income, 20, because they really don't know. So let's estimate lowest income. They'll be offered, let's say, $860 in tax credits at that 20,000. I adjust the tax credit amount to match that previous quote, $552. I don't take all of the 860. You don't have to use all of it that's being offered. This is how the client will pay the correct amount. It protects them from unexpected costs. And if they do make 20,000, they wouldn't have been able to afford that higher max out of pocket. Yeah, they get their tax credit back, but so if you put them at 45 and they don't make that and they have something happen to them and now their bill is 6,000 or 7,000, they couldn't afford it. And if they pay that higher premium, they only took $552 of the $860 offered to them, and they do only make 20,000, they get that tax credit back. They're going to get the overage back. $308 a month times 12, they're going to get all of that back. It's kind of a win-win situation when it's extreme like that. I'm talking about a $25,000 difference. And this came up because of farmers for me. They really didn't know. And most of the time, they've never had that best year in multiple years in a row. It was kind of the, woo, we just harvested corn and it was the perfect timing and the rate of corn was like higher than it's ever been and we sold a bunch of stock. Okay. The chances of them having the 45 is probably not going to happen again, but it could. So I was protecting them from that, tax credit amount that they'd have to pay. If they in fact do make that 45,000, then the IRS is happy. They don't owe any money. Everybody's happy. You protected your client on the possibility of lower income. The IRS got paid for higher income. They're happy. Right now, as long as the IRS is content, that's all that matters. So here's what I would do. Punching them in, 45. Right there. They're going to get the tax credit of $552 a month. And actually, at this point, I show them the plans so they can see the cost. I tell them, don't look at the plan. I just say, can you afford $262? I don't want them to look at the plan details, just the monthly cost. And they're like, yeah, I can do that. Then I go in here and I said, all right, 20,000. Now ignore the cost. Remember, keep 262 in your head. Is this a plan that you could do? Yes. And then again, I explain to them why I'm doing this. But you're not going to pay $8.29. You're going to pay $262. If you only make 25,000, you'll get that difference back. Is the CSR always the best option? Not always. So remember that first section I said there's 3 CSR levels. The top level in our area is usually not the best. This is So if you have a $0 deductible plan for the same carrier in your area, I'm going to put those side by side. They could pay $30.52 for a $0 deductible plan. Their max out of pocket's $9,100. Again, this is last year's, but versus the CSR option, where their deductible is $3,450, their max out of pocket $7,250, but they never go to the doctor. All right, well, doctor visits are 15 in the bronze versus 55 in that silver. The people I put in this silver CSR option were people who went to a specialist numerous times a month. If you go to a specialist 2 times a month, that's $400 right there. With taking them in the silver where they went twice, they're paying $300. So they're just saving $100 a month in that silver CSR versus that bronze CSR. But most of the time, those were kind of the rare exceptions. Most of the time they chose that bronze $0 deductible plan. So don't just automatically CSR is the way to go. The government, the healthcare.gov system assumes that. They just CSR, you know, go to the CSR. And sometimes if you click that bronze, particularly at healthcare.gov, if you pick that bronze option, it goes, are you sure? There's these CSRs. So when people do it on themselves, sometimes they sign up for the silver CSR and nobody ever explained the $0 deductible to them. I've had a few clients come from other agents that this was their situation. How often do you go to the doctor? I never go to the doctor. I'm going to save you some money. And typically, if you take $112 minus $30 times 12, that's how much they're saving in monthly costs. That's almost the difference in the max out of pocket. Sometimes it is the difference, and sometimes it's even more. But they won't make enough money. What if you do, here you go, here's that 100, but I'm below 100 percentile. What if they don't make enough money? Why was the ACA created? This is Florida, this is Texas. What do you do if the state is not going to cover somebody? It was created to make affordable insurance for everyone. If someone without insurance ends up in the ER or the hospital, you and I are paying for it. The taxpayers are going to pay for it anyway. And they typically go with something major. Someone without insurance isn't getting their preventative done. They're showing up in the ER or the hospital because of accidents, gunshots, heart attacks, critical, you know, somebody's cancer. They're showing up with something big. And you and I are paying for it because I've heard that argument. Oh, well, we're just paying for those people. You are either way. And you will actually have a healthier community if you give them insurance to go to. They will go get their preventative before they have their heart attack. The truth is, no one knows what they're going to make a whole year in advance. There's a few that are probably pretty good. They got a pension. I know what I'm going to make. They got Social Security. I know what I'm going to make. All right, that's probably about the most secure. But we've all heard the horror stories of pensions that suddenly vanished because somebody took all the money and embezzled it. You're self-employed. All right, what if you're not anymore? What if something happens? What if you lose that job you've had for 30 years? Nobody knows what they're going to make in a whole year. You just got fired, but I'm going to get a job. Okay, you're going to get a job? 15,000 is not much. I mean, it's not hard to get to 15,000. A job might be lost, you might be gained. Market crashes, lottery might be won. No one can predict the future. We make our most educated guess on what we know and what will save your client. If someone reports income that is 150% above the federal poverty level and at tax time makes 50%, they'll actually get money back that they paid. The IRS is not going after people who report lower income than what is on the application. You now all have to read those attestations. Does it say that? Or does it say if you make more, you might have to? It doesn't say if you make less, you might have to. In fact, it says if you make less, you might get some money back. But if you make more, you might have to pay. Remember, the system is not smart. If it's not doing what you think it needs to do, just redo the application, try again. So if you want to fully understand the CSR, I did this a little bit fast in 45 minutes, less than 45 minutes on the course. It's a whole hour. I go into more detail. And if you want to look at those courses, that's where you go. That's the coupon, 50% off. 2024 is my year. And I didn't mean my year. I meant your year. I want you to write that in and think me. This is my year. Because this is the year. If you're not already doing it, this is the year you can get that. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and ask, is there any other questions that I didn't, because again, I didn't look at those. Or if anybody wants to pop their hand up and ask their question verbally. Again, this will be recorded. It is recording, so I'm assuming that Zoom will work. And if you want to watch this again, it'll be on the YouTube channel. But any questions, Josh, Sam, that you thought were repeated other than that one? All right, you guys are quiet.
No, I think Sam and I got the questions answered. Hopefully on the group chat. It is nice. I had one in yesterday where he got fired from it. Well, forced into retirement, and they weren't planning for the future. And he is sick. A turtle could have beat him to my office last night. I mean, he's dragging the feet along. They did not plan to lose everything in the middle of it, and they're going to make about 40,000. You mean 39,440? He's a max out of pocket guy, gets injections. I mean, he's just not a healthy man. And by lowering that down there, this forced retirement just did not have to kick them in the butt. Cobra was 1250. Well, they don't have any income coming in. You know, he lost his job. All they got is, hey, we had to call Social Security. This was a very nice way when they're sitting down there and almost on tears leaving, going, okay, we can go into a plan where it's 3,000 max out of pocket, not $10,000. Because you got to have that chart right there and just go, you mean 39,440? That's going to be the cutoff. And most people kind of get that. But it does take sometimes a little explanation. This is why I'm doing that.
I did put the chart. I know a couple of people asked, I'm sure they answered. I put you the chart that I showed you. If you do a Google search, 2024 FPL chart, and then look up images, you'll find them. Make sure it says 2024, not 2023, because there's 2024 has come out. Teresa, you have a question.
I do. It's a little bit off topic of the CSR, but it does pertain. So I had a family that wanted a quote in the fall for an ACA plan, and the numbers came back astronomical. No CSR was offered, nothing was offered. From what I can tell, the income levels that they gave me were correct. They were desperate because they couldn't afford that, so they applied to Medicaid and were given Medicaid. They actually qualified. So where's Medicaid getting their income levels from? Like, I'm guessing I must have calculated wrong, but I don't know how I could have calculated it wrong.
So federal is different. So federal is looking at your whole year in the future and in the past. Medicaid only looks back 3 months. And then some Medicaids, every state's going to be different. So you kind of have to know the state. There are situations. So somebody comes in Wisconsin, they had a good paying job, they lost it, and now they're critically ill and they cannot go to work, even though the last 3 months maybe they had good income, but they can prove they're not going to going forward. Sometimes the Medicaid system will accept them for that. People can lie, in the Medicaid system. And then at tax time, everybody's filing taxes right now, and the Medicaid system will see what they filed for their state tax. They may go, yeah, that's a little bit higher than what we had. So, every state's a little bit different. And that's, one of the places I try to get somebody in your Medicaid system, they have Zoom meetings. I'm on one every Wednesday that I can make it with a group it's all the state. And honestly, they don't like agents. And I have to sit there and go, I am not a bad person. But because I'm always there and I give them helpful information, I share some things, I talk about the clients that come into my office, I'm like, in their head, I know it's the exception of the rule, right? All those agents are bad, but we have crits, but I have learned so much about how my state works from that. So you can certainly ask. I think they want our opinion, as long as we're not telling them they're wrong.
Okay, how did you find that? This is for Ohio.
Sure.
And I know that's expanded, so,
Right. Just go, I mean, look up, whatever yours is, if yours is Buckeye Care, I don't know. And then go to their website and call. Just call somebody, they'll route you to somebody, and that kind of keep persisting because they do have them until you find the person that'll give it to you.
okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? We got like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, Chris, I put something, I don't know if anybody has responded. No. So when I go to the HHS guideline for poverty, it's definitely different than the link you just provided. Do you know why that might be the case?
Well, so the one I showed is the 2024, which actually isn't accurate. It's 2023. So even though this is 2024, they're using 2023 information. They only came out with the 2024 chart a month ago. So if you want, you put up the 2023 for 2024. I have the 2024 ready for 2025. So that's why. Look up 2023 and it probably matches whatever somebody else had said. I threw that chart in.
Hi, Chris. This is Bob. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Hi, Bob.
Quick questions. I put it in the chat here, but is there a reason why you would not want to as an option, just simply if the income goes up mid-year, advise them of the change and then just have them set that aside versus updating the application?
I do offer that. I will say, we run a quote. Somebody calls us and say, hey, my income went up, or I had to take some money out of my IRA. We'll run them a quote and say, okay, at tax time, this is what we estimate you're probably going to owe. Do you want to just hold that, or do you want us to fix it so you're paying now? I'm giving them the option for those of us who spend every dime that walks in versus those of us who save. So yes, I do, absolutely. Sam, that might be during the normal year, probably 10% of her job. She was worked before she was an agent. So yes, we do run those quotes in the middle of the year.
Thank you.
In fact, we tell people to do that, and we tell them we will run you the quote so that you know what you might have to owe. Yep.
Great, thanks.
And Bob, just so you guys know, Bob and I know each other because he worked with one of the insurance companies, Common Ground, who I use because they're just as my examples, because they're the #1 in our area. And he's learned a whole lot coming from that carrier side to now he's an agent. And it's been very different, right? I mean, he didn't even know what we were doing. A couple times Bob has said to me, did you know? And I'm like, yep, that's what we've been doing since I started. So he's got a really interesting perspective coming from that side to this side.
Very much so.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week. We're going to look at summary benefits, explanation of benefits. And I'm even going to pull an odd one out. I'm going to pull a Manhattan dental vision explanation of benefits for those of us, because we see those a lot. So I'm going to pull that out. So we'll look at all those. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Thanks.